Well, what do you think? Am I completely crazy to have gone to that much trouble just to save a little bit of fabric?
Trust me, I am your proof right now that you can get things done in little bitty chunks added up. Hi, welcome or welcome back to Lakeside Quiltmaking Arts. I'm Dawn and I'm at the lake, so this channel is also known as Dawn at the Lake. You may hear something in the background, and that's the 13-week-old puppy, Betsy Ross. I just don't have the heart to put her back in her crate at the moment, so you may just hear her. She's trying to chew up one of my boxes that I have some fabric stashes in. So that aside, what are we working on? We today are working on the sleep sack. This is not a garment making channel. However, I am making a garment. But as I've explained in each of the previous videos for this sleep sack, this is not just a sleep sack. The sleep sack is just kind of incidental. But what enthuses me about it as a quilt maker is that I am treating it as a way to just kind of ramp up my creativity, to allow my creativity a way to channel, to flow. I have been doing so many things, had a lot of distractions and whatever. And I just needed to just be free with my creativity a little bit. So I wanted to try some improv, especially after I saw this book being reviewed by Nikki from Pen Cut Sew. And so there's a couple of techniques in here that I wanted to try, and I thought, gosh, that's a lot of quilts if I make each one of these. So I'm killing two birds with one stone. I'm using this sleep sack as kind of a sampler quilt. So I'm making the fabric that I'm going to use for the sleep sack. It's going to be patchwork and it's going to be quilted, and then I make the sleep sack. So I'm making fabric, and I am using right now so far, and I know I'm going to be using more. There's two techniques in this book that I'm using. One of them is what he calls, this is Nicholas Ball, he calls rings. And then the other one, gosh, I forget what he called that one. I'm using it for my pasture lands. Let me see if I can find it in here. I just think maybe it's the curves. Yeah, it's just using the curve technique. See that? That's one of Nicholas Ball's quilts. And I love that look. It's not really the aesthetic that I was really looking for this quilt. I had some ideas. I had them drawn out, sketched out. They were in my head, but what I want to do more so than being exact to my little hand sketch is I wanted to explore. And I wanted to explore curves and improv curves. And so I'm doing this technique on the background of the bottom of the sleep sack. So one of the mottos around here is keep the needle moving. I have a lot of distractions, just like everybody else. I have a chronic illness. Some days I feel better than I do other days. I have a body that gets injured by just looking at it. So I am constantly just doing the best I can every day. And I'm trying to be really efficient with my days. And, I try to sketch out a little bit of time every day. That's how this sleep sack is being built. Right now, there's a lot of distractions. My son is here. He's been visiting since July, and he's putting in a pond, large pond, and a stream, and a biofilter, the whole bit. He's doing it all himself. So it's a big deal. And that's been a big diversion for me. So I am proof right now. If you think, oh, I can't quilt, I can't make anything because I don't have the time, trust me, I am your proof right now that you can get things done in little bitty chunks added up. If you're diligent about finding 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, and you do that every day, things get done, because that's how everything has gotten done for me in the last 2 months, or in my entire life, but especially in the last 2 months, because all kinds of distractions, and yet I've gotten stuff done. Been doing loads on this Pick A Petal, and I'm just so excited by it. Just love how it's coming together and seeing it all fill up the design board. It's just, I'm looking at it here off the side of the screen. It just, makes my heart happy. In previous videos, we've talked about why we're making this, and we're talking about why it's so big, but we haven't talked about how we're making it, and that is one stitch at a time, one day at a time, just keeping the needle moving. The fabric design that we're going for is just kind of an interpretation of lush pasture lands with hay bales and cotton fields and pasture lands. So how did I do that? How was I going to do that? Initially, I was going to do 3/4 inch strips and just kind of change my colors. And I'm not going out and hand picking fabrics for any of this. I'm just using my stash. I got a lot of stash left over from working on the Pick a Petal and from other things too, right? And so I just wanted to use the fabrics I already had. And that, of course, is changing the aesthetic of this fabric that I'm making. But I am loosely interpreting what a hay bale is, loosely interpreting what a pasture land is, and I'm really going to be loosely interpreting what a cotton ball is. You'll see that'll be in the next video, because it won't be in this one, I can tell you that. But I'm going to get back at it here and show you what else has been going on. I had everything up on the board initially, and because I don't have this is just a temporary board and I don't have it covered in any kind of fabric, my pieces had to be pinned on. And so rearranging them just wasn't going to work very well, being vertical. So I needed to, because gravity was not my friend. It was just awkward, really awkward. So what I did is I took everything down and set it on my workspace, and I've been playing with that all day. And I'm going to let some music play and show you what I did. I'll interrupt here and there and little bits of it at the end. After the music stops and the fabric for the bottom part of the sleep sack is finished, then we'll talk about what is next. And because it won't be really finished until we get the cotton balls represented. I've got some thoughts on that, but I need to fine tune it. And hopefully by the end of the next set of clips, I'll have some idea about what that's going to look like, and I'll share with you. I'll see you in a second. Hope you enjoy the video. What I've been struggling with as I've been putting together each of these pasture lands is that I don't really know how to arrange them. I do know that I've got enough gaps that I need to make probably one more of the neutrals and one more of the green. As I'm placing them, I can fill in any gaps. I also don't want to make any that I'm going to cover up with one of the hay bales. I may just use some cheap fabric to use as a filler to connect the pasture lands before I applique the hay field on. Not quite sure about that just yet. I just don't want to go through the effort and use my nice fabric if I'm just going to cover it up. I've had a lot of fun putting together each of the pasture lands because I've seen each one as an opportunity to just kind of play with color, try to keep with some yellow greens or some blue greens or mix it up, and not really try to overthink it at the same time. Like I'm not trying to think about the big picture like I normally would. I am truly trying to make this an improv, flying by the seat of my pants experience, because I really think it helps our creativity. It helps us to bloom, to nurture our creativity. I just had to leave this part in for you guys to have a laugh on my behalf. Look what I'm doing. I'm cutting my fabric. No big deal, right? Except for the fact my pattern is underneath it. I know I was really concerned about wasting fabric and time by making more pasture lands and then covering it up with my hay bales and you're never seeing it again. So I figured out, well, I'll just cut out sections and repurpose the parts I cut out, and that way I am only covering up, or only mostly covering up, this cheap fabric from the 90s that I found that is just being used as a filler, But it's taken me so long to do this. I should have just done it the other way probably. But I do feel good that I've not wasted fabric. I just need to figure out, yes, gotta go there. I need to add to this row, and then I can attach these two strips. So what I need to do next is I'm thinking that to add to this row, I'm going to have some left over from up here. So I need to figure that row out before I make any more to put here. So I think that's what's next. That is what's next. Overlap 1/4 inch, everybody. Cinch it down to 1/4 inch seam allowances. Okay. All right, that's good. Okay. That's good. All right. Okay. I need to fill in something there. I will have a decent little piece right here left over that I can probably put right in there. But let's place these guys. Heck, I'm going to have more than just a little bit, especially, which side did I decide I wanted on the bottom? I think it was like that. Now, so I'm going to have a decent piece from underneath here that I can put here. That's good. Okay, this one is going to go here like that. Actually, I think this one went up higher, I believe. And this was a little bit lower off to the edge. I think that's kind of what I wanted.
Yeah, like that, offset like that. Okay, now I got to think about this. How much of this can I steal? Because I only need like this much of it. I think this is good. I just need to cut away what's not being used on this one. So right up through there. Oh, makes me nervous. Before I do that, I'm going to start from the right side and go over because I don't want to end up having to add something back. I'm going to add a piece of cheap fabric right here to finish filling out this bottom. Fortunately, I have a lot of that cheap fabric. What do you call this kind of fabric anyway, where it's got the same, I guess it's a woven because the design is the same from the front and the back. But is there another way to characterize this kind of fabric? If you know, please tell me in the comments. I'm going to cut another piece of this. I've mentioned to you guys before that I got back from my daughter some fabrics I'd given her that was from the 90s. And this is part of that stash. I'm not in love with it for quilt making because it's so thin. I'm not quite sure. I don't remember ever buying this. Most of the thing, and not everything in that boxes do I remember ever buying anyway. But it's not because I have any dementia going on that I know of. But wouldn't I be the last to know anyway? Okay, I'm going to put that in there. Make this pasture land. I've not trimmed away my seam allowance. Got a big tail of it here until I make sure I have this how I need it. I think it's going to be fine. And I'm going to trim it. It's good. Square this up. Put the bottom edge on it. Put the side edge on it. Okay. Seam overlaps, seam allowance allowed for. Add this together. And then I can do that one. It's coming together. Okay. Need to square this up too. The way I was originally going to do this was 3/4 inch strips. Would have been so quick and easy. But I have learned so much doing it this way. Okay, that's going to be fine. Gonna add this one and then add this one. And then I'll see what I can cut away to put here. I'm going to be a little shy of filling up the entirety of the pattern. And that's going to be okay. It's only like an inch. Yeah, just an inch. And we've already discussed how much bigger this pattern is than it was, than what it seems like a 1-year-old child should have. So it's going to be plenty big even without that. Okay, I'm going to put this together. The fabric turned up a little bit right there, but that's going to be okay. It's going to be inside the seam allowance. That one's not flush across the top, but that's okay because it's really an insignificant thing. I didn't realize that this one piece was so much shorter, but I'm going to have to trim the rest of it to be level with that. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. Okay, this will overlap. Yay, yay, yay. Good thing I pieced this together because there's not that much left over here. I mark the exterior of this circle because I'm going to be using, I know the size of my hay bale is not going to change because I know that I'm going to use raw edge applique because I'm okay with this having some texture to it as it is worn and washed and, you know, laundered over the years as it's used from one child to the next. I think that's going to make it lovely. Okay, there's my circle. So all of this I need to take out, or can take out. I think what I'll do is I'll make a piece to go in here and I'm just going to sew it on top and then cut this away. My line got a little wonky. I'm going to fix it here so I don't make a mistake. I need my pencil sharpener. So what I need to fill in this gap over here needs to be 5 3/4 by 2 inches. 5 3/4 by 2 inches. Am I gonna, there's no way I can get that. Yeah, there is. Okay, I'm gonna make sure I've got this well marked. It seems like it's moved a little bit. Okay, so I'm putting a piece of cheap fabric on here, and I'm going to kind of sketch out where I want to sew it. It doesn't matter what this looks like. It's going to be completely hidden by a hay bale. So it can be raw on the inside. I just don't need any of it to show on the outside. So I'm going to mark quickly where I want to stop. I'm going to put sew lines, stitch lines where I have drawn with a pen, and then I'm going to cut out everything that's inside there and repurpose it here. That works. Should work. Okay, I just sewed that down in a circle. I am now going to go from the back side and cut away, leaving a little bit of a seam allowance. So this is going to be left. This will connect my pieces and my hay bale will go over it. Okay, so from back here, I'm going to go 1/4 inch away from that and not any closer to it. It's hard to see. I'm using 100 weight Wonder Fill because that's what I had in a white that was readily available when my bobbin ran out. And I thought it would be good to have my bobbin filled up with something so skinny so it would last a long time. So I had to thread my machine with that in order to make the bobbin. So I just left it in. And it's very hard to see, which is why it's used for applique. And it works beautifully for that. Okay, all that to salvage that. Was it worth it? I don't know. I am a cheapskate. I have zero budget. You know, everything I spend on quilt making is like, you know, squeezed out of a turnip somewhere. So I'm, you know, money conscientious. So now I have this, and it's not big enough to go right here. But if I cut it in two and stack it, it is. So let me do that. We finish up this row, attach these two, and then now this one's ready to attach, and we'll have the bottom of the sleep sack ready to go. I'm just going to cut it in half or thereabouts. Okay, I can add that right there. What I'm going to do is put these two together, and then since this made a long piece, then I'm going to size this up to here so that I have a straight edge here that I can apply this to. So how far over did I need this to come? All the way over to there. It's going to leave me a little bit of an edge to trim. Okay. Okay. Cut this flush with that. Add this piece to it. And then the third row gets added. All right. Let's straighten this up first. Do we like the lines on that? Kinda. Not bad. Just needs to lie flat. Flatter. I think that's fine. Just use that edge. Okay, so what needs to be straightened, put a straight edge on, is this. Okay, let's see what we've got going on now. This not too shabby. Awesome. Okay, gonna attach these. Let me get my alignment just right. Okay, so if this is down here like this, and this one is like this, this one is going somewhere like this. Okay, cotton balls are going to go over here. That's where I'm going to start sewing, is on this edge, and then I'll trim on that side when I'm done. Okay, I'm going to put that on the wall to make sure that we like it. It's looking good. Well, what do you think? Am I completely crazy to have gone to that much trouble just to save a little bit of fabric? I don't know. I mean, I learned some things. I learned, number one, that things don't stay perfect when you try to do this. It's not lying quite as flat as I would like for it to lie. That's okay. Considering what it's for, we're okay. We're fine. I am not going to do the applique of the hay bales just yet. I want to figure out my cotton blossoms and place one of those just in case I need to budge any of these circles, any of these hay bales, just a little bitty bit. Overall, I feel pretty good about everything. It's not what I had hoped for it to be. It's not what I was wanting it to be. Let me get it up on the board over there again. It looks kind of bare without its hay bales. Let's get those on. I might need to add another row of pasture land or cotton field to fill up the entirety of that pattern space, only so that I can get that hay bale on the far left to get it higher, because I'm not loving where it is. I've got the cheater cheap fabric underneath it, so I had to keep that hidden. If I have pasture land higher up, I can move that hay bale up an inch and still be covering up that cheap fabric that's holding everything together underneath the applique. I think I'm going to have to do that. I'll get that done, and then we'll start the hay bales in the next video. In my mind, cotton is a round thing. Well, what I picture also is like, you know, you've got a puff of cotton and a puff of cotton and a puff of cotton, and then you got the stems coming out of that.
And that's what I want to represent. So that would mean I put down circles, just cut out some circles, group them, and then take some of the brown fabric to make stems. And I think that's going to be pretty simple. And I think that's what I'm going to do in the next video. We'll see. Tune in. If you're not following the playlist already for the sleep sack, it is for Baby and Me. And I think I called it Pick a Petal for Baby and Me because I'm using a lot of my Pick a Petal fabric. And of course, the Pick a Petal, which is the dark blue that you see on the board, that is going for the same child, the same grandbaby. So overall, I'm pleased with my day. It wasn't wise. Even though I saved fabric, I probably should have just made the entire field consistently and dealt with whatever waste there was. I don't think I saved myself any time. I had to think creatively to handle the project the way I did it. It's okay. I mean, I'm not mad about doing it. I just don't think it was the wisest move. I heard Alex say on the Quilt Show in the last video or two, maybe, talking about the efficiency that we need, to be able to work efficiently. And one of them is to have designated space. That's why I can work the way I do. So I don't want to sound too pompous when I say just move the needle. It is difficult to just move the needle if you don't have a designated space. This is a public area of the house. Living room and TV's right there, front door's right there. But I'm really the only person and my son who's ever here. So it can stay messy, projects can be in the works. But if you're a quilt maker and you don't have this kind of space, you've got a closet you got to close all the time, or you got to pull that sewing machine out each time, you have your ways already of being efficient. And, you could probably do video series or write a book about it. I don't know how I could function that way. But what I do already, some variation of that would apply. That is just setting up projects for yourself that you can do on the fly. And then take whenever you have an hour or so that you can just build another set of projects, so they're easy to do on the fly. Then that's how you move the needle. So I'm not going to get too preachy about all that. You guys are probably far more pros at that than I am. I just want to be an advocate for it. Don't ever think that you can't get anything done. Just do a little bit here and there and it all adds up. I'm going to be glad whenever this is done, because this is, there's been so much new to this. It's kind of been holding up the progress of the sleep sack. And I do want it to be done, in its entirety and to my grandbaby by the end of the month. So I'm going to go let Miss Betsy out of her crate. Have a great day. Keep moving that needle, and I'll see you in the next one.